1, 2, 3.
Need a big one.
Oh, a big one?
Yeah. Because I'm hoping to see a spike and line up the spikes.
Okay, that's fine.
I can always just scream.
That could work too.
In today's...
Can you imagine if that was like every Hollywood movie starred?
Oh my God! I hope that doesn't make it into the.
Oh, it will.
I hope it does
It is.
actually,
Welcome
because
to the opening.
that actually frightened me enough. I was just gonna say something in like. In today's battle of Tiny versus technology, Tiny had to adjust his telephone's camera to record the podcast, but also get it off of photo mode.
Well, part of the clamp is just right where all the controls are.
Yeah,
It's either that or you cannot see what you're videoing.
we've been fighting with this for like 20 minutes.
All right, we got this.
Okay, we're professionals. We make tens of dollars.
Okay, on 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we know when to start it.
We already started multiple times. What are we gonna do?
Da, 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 da.
I'm just really glad everybody who listens to this, like unedited, gets to experience all of that in their headphones.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
so sorry for everybody, and also thank you, Patreon members. Hey, we're the Nerded Through the Grapevine, the podcast where four best friends gather weekly, and now it's 3. But I'm Austin Shazam Pfeiffer.
I'm Otto. The pumpkins are getting noticeably larger and longer. Cogdale.
I'm Austin Tiny Zent. Am I breathing through my butt like a turtle?
Oh man, I really did get jumbled up because we got real antsy during the intro music there. In case you don't have Patreon, you could always join our Patreon just so you can hear the nonsense that we just got into. That got my brain jumbled. Oh man, it's a horror. It's a horror.
Spooky.
It is spooky. Honestly, today's episode is going to be very suited for the weather we are experiencing. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about some...
Blustery and violence?
Yes, actually, it really suits it because, and you know, it's perfect too because it's like perfect weather out there, like bright, sunny, like oh my gosh, what a beautiful day. And 35 minutes later, it's like
Tornadoes.
the final countdown. Have you guys evacuated? Get if you know anybody that's on the river today because it was pretty. Make sure you tell them to get off the river. The naders are coming.
The floods, the naders, and the cicadas are out. It's
Yeah.
the invasion of the cicadas.
It makes my dog so confused because, during storms, she hides in the linen closet. When it's not stormy, she doesn't. So she's just been beating a trail from my chair to the linen closet in the bathroom. And just looking at me kind of confused and like, Dad, are we dying or are we not? And then we go outside and it's like Chinese buffet with all the cicadas.
Yeah.
Just mopping them up.
Yeah,
Gross.
my dog's still trying to figure out if they're friend or food, and right now it's really leaning towards food, and I really wish it wasn't.
I am so glad that I don't have trees close to where I live out here,
Oh, it must be so nice. I have
like at the strip mall studio.
I have a giant like oak tree. Apparently, cicadas love oak trees. Like I have a giant oak tree beside my house, and
You bragging?
no, my wife sent
Weird flex, but okay.
my wife sent me a video like last week where all the cicadas were like splitting their shells, and it looked like there was like pea gravel in front of this tree with just how many cicada shells are on it, and also it smells to high heaven because they're decaying.
Yeah, but it's really cool how they lay their eggs, though. They'll, like, land on the tree and, like, cut it open and then put their eggs inside the tree.
They also
It's really neat.
pee on you when they land.
That's every insect, I think.
Either way, I don't like it. I don't like cicadas. I do not care that they will not hurt me, I don't like them. I don't like things crawling on me with that many legs. I don't like things crawling on me with the correct amount of legs, much less that many.
And they don't even ask permission and like hover around you.
No, they ram into your ass.
Like they will run into you Junebug style, except they're like clinging with claws of death. You can smack them and they might not let go.
yeah.
Dude, I was walking back to my car after making a delivery the other day, and one landed and grabbed onto my head skin in the back.
Where were your pants?
This head.
Oh,
shoulders.
top head, top noggin,
heads.
noggin, noggin,
Right.
nog skin.
All I'm saying is if one landed on me out there, I would emit a sound that they could pick up on whale sensors.
Well, I mean, insects don't bother me.
No,
But, you know, I don't love it. I mean, I did shoo him away, but it was a gentle, like, go on, friend.
Oh no, I like tennis swipe, like get the French off of me right now, or else you'll be turned into paste.
you had 48 hours and you picked the wrong minute to fly here. That's
Yeah,
me.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
me with the cicadas. I just not a fan of bugs. But we're going to talk about some horror movies today. Some things that we'll dive into some different aspects of the horror movies. Well, I think we're going to talk about why we like horror movies, because I think all three of us here enjoy some scaries. You know,
Yeah.
I have some favorites. You have some favorites, Tiny. You have some favorites, Otto. I don't even have to look at lists for my favorites of horror movies because I can tell you the genres and what they're about. What'd you bring to the table today, Tiny? What is your go-to? What spurred it for you?
I don't know, man. Just something about I was just in a mode because I have to watch them in modes, you know. And sometimes horror movies they just hit me, and sometimes it's for the comedic factor. I think like The Leprechaun and some of the older ones like that, because those are some of the best comedy movies. But then I get to the modern ones, and I like the thrillers, and I like the
Yeah, I really enjoy pretty much all of the supernatural kind of movies if I can, eat them. Like kind of like I like the animes that are going to, reincarnations in another world and things along those lines.
Isekais.
The isekais, yeah. The same thing that attracts me to that kind of stuff is the same thing that attracts me to like the supernatural stuff, because it's seeing all these things that are happening that you would typically be like an invisible force. Like putting it in front of you, not making you use your imagination as to what it might look like. It's a like watching the Conjuring movies or watching the like the Annabelle series or things along those lines.
Well, I think it depends on the form of supernatural movie, because some of them, like the there was one where they're trapped in an elevator. I think it was called Devil, you
Yeah.
know, and people keep dying when the power goes out, and like that one stuff along those lines. I just find to just be just boring and dull. And I end up just laughing at the ridiculousness of what's happening. Which, granted, if that was a real life thing and some of those happening, very dramatic, but watching it as a movie, I'm like, come on, man! Like when the old lady stands up and like uncrooks her head, and I'm the one that's been doing it. I laughed.
Yeah, it was. I liked it as far as movies go, but I thought after it was all said and done, it was all for like a very quick, very kind of strobe effecty kind of main reveal for the big scary.
Yeah.
And the twist was cool, that it was of course the old woman. But
I mean, I called it from the beginning.
old women scare me in the first place. Like honestly, like I don't.
I'm guessing
like,
granny magic you don't know about.
Well, it's not just that. It's just that like they can be mean to me, and it hurts me worse than normal people being mean to me.
Right.
I don't know why, it just does.
Yeah.
Because they can also be sweet to you, and then you've never had anybody be sweeter.
Mhm.
So it's an equal. It's a risky payout on
Or
that.
they get the hots for you, and it just becomes weird and creepy.
That's you, Tiny.
I know.
Right.
That's just you.
Yeah.
I can't be the only one she does that to.
Maybe we should put it to the polls.
Right. Have you been? I don't even know how to say this without sounding weird. So I'm just gonna not. But
Okay, say it.
no.
You already brought it up.
I've been watching a lot. I've been rewatching House of Dragon. I watched it all the way through. Just my favorite scene in it. I'm just going to say it right back to you again one more time, Otto.
Okay.
Say it.
Okay. I was gonna say if you have been sexually come onto by a granny, put it in the polls, but I don't know. That just sounds weird. It makes me uncomfy.
Oh, no wonder it sounded. Yeah,
Yeah, that see. Sometimes you shouldn't tell me to say things that I should say because like my brain goes weird places. There has to be a filter on this thing because like with the ADHD, words just get put together, and a lot of times I don't think about them before it.
I'm proud of you for speaking your mind.
Yeah,
I don't
this
think
is
you
a
should
safe
be.
space.
I really don't think you should be.
Look, I understand some people like older women. You just happen to like them a little older than
All right, let's
typical.
Yeah,
talk about.
yeah.
I'll talk about a.
I-
If we're going into a scary old women trope, let's just go with scary old women trope here, real quick. Let's just jump into it.
Okay. So I can't remember the name of it. It's,
Legion.
Man,
I love
no. The one where the kids go and visit the grandparents, and at
The
night-
Visit.
Oh,
That one.
Crawl- just
the
norm-
crawl space.
Yeah, the crawl space,
No,
like
man, that's
just
the
how quick,
creepiest freaking thing.
ooh, how quickly the granny is like old and decrepit and nothing to get around very quickly, but all of a sudden she's crawling underneath the crawl space after the little girl, and just like no, like it's a boo boo.
That makes me
Yeah.
uncomfy. I'm not as well versed in horror because, like, growing up, it really wasn't my jam. The two things of horror that I like the only time I really watch horror movies is during Halloween or close to like spooky season. I can't just like sit down and
So you're
watch
a
them.
seasonal guy.
I am, and the two that
It's
I
like
like
a snowbird.
are
That's okay.
thrillers because or like psychological horror where it's not like, oh, there's a big scary monster. It's like, here's a premise that will scare the bejesus out of you because it could happen, or like it just kind of gets in your head. Or if I'm feeling lighter, slashers because they're the Lay's potato chips. Like,
Yeah.
give me a good like Friday the 13th, a good like Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees. Like, I just like that stuff because at a certain point, it's not even scary. It's just like, ooh, I want to see how these people get cut down.
Yep, you see, you find yourself being a cheerleader for the right decision, and when people make the right decision, aka the correct decision, in these movies, you are rooting for that. You're not rooting against the people in a way to where you're like, I hope you die. You're stupid. You're stupid. You're stupid. You deserve to die from the beginning. No, you're watching their choices. You're rooting for their choices, and if they're making the poor choices, then you're like, well, you're getting what you deserved. Like what are you going to do?
Premarital sex.
I want.
Right.
There's a door that goes outside out onto the road, but then we'd have to leave the house. It's raining real bad. But if we go to the other room that has knives hanging from the ceiling, maybe we'll be safe in that room too. We can hide in the knife ceiling room,
And then somebody dies from getting cut with a knife that was taken from you would never guess where. The fucking ceiling.
Like, these people live in houses where it's like, why do you have that many sharp implements just laying around?
And you can tell none of them take place in the South because none of them have a firearm.
And if they do,
No.
it's like grandpappy's old single shot shotgun that hasn't been shot since like World War One.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the old shotgun. That's a trope in
Yeah.
horror movies to where you don't have any forms of weaponry besides this like antique firearm that's just around for decoration, but you happen to have the old shells. Are they going to work? Are they not going to work? It's like the movie The Strangers. Like the only fight that he put up to save him and his wife's life was revolving around this little bit of physical altercation and some not so good shots with an old shotgun. Like how I cannot imagine in the South how many rounds, like just the way that the people in The Strangers approached the house and came into the house and were very calm and just people in masks. Like in the South, number one, they're dressed like wildlife. I was mistaken, officer. I thought there's a giant rabbit in my house.
Yeah,
Well, you have to ask my son. He works at one of them shops that sells the THC gummies. I got into a bag of them one time, and I ate all of them but one because I was trying to be nice and I ate the whole bag. I didn't realize there's 1,000 milligrams in there, and I saw some bunny rabbits and some foxes, and they were going yip 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 yip.
Bang.
Or it's like a knock at the cabin where it's outside in the car in a safe, completely unloaded as it could possibly be. So then you got to struggle and load it and put it together while
Yeah,
somebody comes at you with a frickin' axe or whatever.
Yeah,
Because like I am a firearm owner, and let me tell you, I have a loaded firearm that's like just pull the safety off. And if I don't give a flying French if Jason Voorhees is knocking down my door. I will unload into him until there's nothing more to unload.
See, now that's different because in the case of something like a Jason Voorhees, I'm not going to go pop, 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 and keep firing and wait for him to fall. I'm going to fire a few rounds, and if that's not working, I then have the second option, which is also the bass player for the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Take your pants off.
No, Flea.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought it was take your pants off. Because you can scare just about anybody with a little wiener.
What I tell my wife is, I have a gamble on the house's security because I have a lot of large blades, and I tell her if somebody's coming into the house and they're breaking into the house, hopefully they've played Elden Ring, because nobody that's ever played Elden Ring will mess with somebody in his underwear holding a large blade with a laundry basket on his head. because you that man has beaten the game 5 times and can speed run some of the bosses that took you multiple deaths. Okay, like that, it's just an intimidation factor. I'm not talking I'm that skilled, but it's just a learned thing, you know?
Let me solo her.
Like when a lizard puffs itself up real big to look like a bigger lizard. Like, I'm just bigger lizarding. That's all that I'm doing. Like, be the bigger lizard. Like, nobody is going to mess with you. I promise you. If you look like you prestiged an Elden Ring.
I wanted to improve our home defense, but my wife said no to the stair-mounted cannon. I said that we wouldn't have to worry about anything, and our neighbors would be alerted that there's someone in our house from the loud explosion. But also, apparently, firing a cannon indoors down a hallway is very loud and violates your renter's insurance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, dang, what's the point of living then?
Right.
If you can't have your stair-mounted floor cannon.
Right. I did think about using my Mosin Nagant. For the uninitiated, Mosin Nagant is a rifle from, like, Russia made it from, like, before World War I all the way into, like, late World War II. And it shoots basically a 30-06 round, but with vodka.
It does shoot a 30-06.
Yeah, 7.62 by 54. Very loud, very big bang. And I was like, if I shoot that down the stairs at night, we'll all be blinded and deafened. And I'm pretty sure I can, like, at least spook them off. Because my other home defense.
If nothing fails, you use it as a club.
Yeah,
because they are heavy as hell.
And it also had like a 13-inch bayonet on it. But my other home defense, because you can legally buy these if you have the right paperwork, was a flashbang and a tomahawk, and just say, "Hey, good morning, fuckers," and throw it down the stairwell. Wait till I hear, "Ah," and then run down with the tomahawk. Because life has to be a little bit exciting sometimes.
That's true.
Only if you do it completely naked.
Oh yeah, well of course.
That's the proper uniform for home defense. It's complete and utter nudity.
And I think that's why. Well, not the nudity part, but that is a frequent recurring thing in some horror movies.
Oh yeah.
But when it comes to like a gore aspect of things, people are attracted to gore in horror movies, and some of them in a more extreme fashion than others. It's just like they're kind of different artists' interpretation on what gore would be.
13 different Saw movies.
And actually, one of the guy that did a lot of the effects work for Saw talked about why gore works in certain ways to paint better pictures, and why people are attracted to that gore and why they continuously would watch it. And it's he explains it by saying we get to consume something we see little of in real life, in a controlled and safe environment where we can test the limits of our emotive response to comfort.
I mean, that makes sense.
And so it's one of those, we know that this is bad. We know this is not good. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening in front of me. That's so awful. But it's also poking little sensors and like little proby sensors into your brain, and that part that says like, what would you do? What would you do? What would you do? And then it produces dopamine that releases into your body and makes you feel joy after the feeling has subsided.
I don't know if I get that, because I've watched quite a few Saw movies, and I'm just like, that doesn't seem fun.
Oh no, it's not everybody. Everybody's response is always different for different things.
Right.
But the classic reason why people like scary things, jumpy things, anticipation of suspense, and whether or not things are going to be, like out of nowhere, a thing's going to jump up from around the corner and scare you, startle you. Is the music going to be building and building and building and building, and all of a sudden everything is just nothing? You know, it builds up for nothing, and then boom, there it jumps out and scares you. Like that feeling that people like it, and it's actually it has a medical term, and it is called frisson. And frisson is a thrilling shiver. The people that also love roller coasters love the feeling of frisson and the excitement. It all comes on at once.
I think I
Right.
got one of them at Drake's the other night.
A
Frisson?
You did?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like a creamy, kind of vanilla-y, almost like an ice cream dessert.
It's also described as a pleasurable sensation from fright.
See, I don't think I have that because I don't like jump scare stuff, and I also don't like roller coasters. Maybe I'm just built differently.
Well, no, I can understand it.
I don't like the jump scare stuff either. It's just, it's like, why are you just making me jump? It doesn't serve a purpose.
It feels like a cheap horror thing.
Yeah, it's like the whole cheap thrill thing. You know,
Yeah, I like
It's
the ones
opposite.
where it's like there's one I haven't watched it, but it's The Invisible Man, where it's just like this girl's running away from this guy that is invisible. Like he's trying to kill her, and no one can see her. Like no one can see him, and it's just like you never know if he's there or not. And it's like that is terrifying.
Yeah, that's a whole other different kind of horror.
Yeah.
I'm also a fan. Did y'all ever see that one called The Collector?
I don't think
It's
so.
kind of Saw-esque, but this lady gets home after work and she walks into her house, and like earlier that day she had like a pest control or a cable repair guy or something like that, and she walks into her house and there's all kinds of Saw-esque booby traps. Like as soon as the door shuts, she can't get out. One room is like has these razor wires everywhere you got to weave through, otherwise it could just like cut you in half. There's things swinging from the ceiling with spikes and shit on there, but she can hear her husband in one room like locked up in a box, because at the end of it he keeps one of the people for his collection.
Huh. That causes me some discord.
Yeah.
Should check out the link in our description. Tell us what your favorite horror movie is.
Tiny, you here?
I'm just waiting on him to finish it.
Because
I was like, if he
you can
wants
find
me to
us
plug it
live,
in.
uncut, uncensored, and irrevocably circumcised.
There you go.
He did it.
You did
Yeah.
it. Good job.
It's weird.
Touch my fingertip with yours.
It's
That's your
weird
reward.
because like the way that the mic arm is, like it's perfectly covering just your eyes. So I'm seeing above and below. It was just like this black line, like right here, like you're in like a secret agent movie or
Yeah,
something.
that's kind of how I see you too.
Yeah.
Well, I think that horror movies take, a lot of different shapes and forms into the way they do stuff. Like, there was a stint in the 2000s to where there were all of these origin story horror movies that were
Yeah.
coming out. And I'm not talking like they were absolutely all the way hot, stinking fecal garbage, but they were at least worthy of the hot stinkle. Like I remember I think it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning.
Yeah, that was awful.
I think
just stupid.
I think that one kind of felt like that one kind of felt like hot stinkle. Like the opening scene of it, like Leatherface's mom is giving birth to him in the middle of a slaughterhouse while she's working on the slaughterhouse assembly line, and it's like this grotesque, like panicky horror it's kind of invoking with the music and the way that she's doing stuff, because she's just like, boss, I gotta go home, I think I'm sick. And he's like, no, you gotta stay and work. She's like, oh no. Not that she sounds like Dale Gribble, because that
Oh,
was just
no.
incident. That's just, oh no.
Yeah, it's almost like body horror.
It is. And she basically gives birth to Leatherface on the assembly line at a slaughterhouse, and the person at the assembly line's like looking down on her and says, that's what you get for hanging around them boys. Like, it's just real bad, grotesque, like, oh, everybody's cousin kind of horror movie.
I think it's funny. Horror movies are the one like the one movie like style, or like one movie like the franchises that no matter how many bad ones you release, they'll come back for more. So I mean, there's been like 11 Friday the 13th movies, and one of them was good. But they just keep making them, and if they make another Voorhees movie, people are going to go see it.
Oh yeah,
Same
absolutely.
with like Chucky. Like the first one was pretty neat, And then after that, it was just, let's see what else we can
They
put
phone
this
it in real fast.
Yeah, but you know what? They're still going to make them.
Yeah.
And people are
Same
still going to
with
see them.
Saw.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy because, like, no matter how bad or how dumb they get, because, again, like you said, that early stint in the 2000s where it was just, like, garbage tier, like, what
Then
is
they
this?
go, what if they went to space?
Right. What if this doll had a kid and the kid was also a murderer and we'll do that twice?
Yeah, I think the Chucky movies ended up getting more and more and more absurd as they went along. And
Look, here's the thing about Chucky. When I was a young warthog,
do you want me to do?
Oh.
Do you want Timon?
They say his aroma like the Satan appeal. He could clear the
No.
savannah after every meal.
I mean, that's fine. I just got myself to take a little. Anyway, so I was probably 5 to 6 years old, and my sisters, I had 3. No, sorry, I had 2 at the time. No, I was right the first time. I had 3.
Trying to remember
It was-
family.
Yeah.
I had an unspecified amount of sisters.
I had a number of sisters. They were less than a bushel.
A murder of sisters.
And so, as a young child, they sat me down to watch Chucky with them when they were supposed to be babysitting me. And the problem is, as that really small young child, you know, you get curious about things like you sneak in your sister's bedroom because you're, you know, single digit H's. And, you know, they're all, you know, at least 13 years older than me. So they're worried about their cigarettes and their weed and whatever else that they have hidden. And so one of them decided to get a sticker of Chucky and put it on her bedroom door to keep me out. What she didn't realize is that's what sealed her fate, because it scared me so bad that I couldn't go to the bathroom down there to use the bathroom. And my mother saw me going outside and taking a dump. You know how, like, some of those houses have the little, like, cut out in the ground and the little basement window that pokes up just a hair?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was pooping in there, and I was getting Dad's shop rags and throwing them in the hole, too.
Oh,
And
God.
that's how they got caught after about 2 weeks of this happening.
Oh,
And my
no.
mom questioned me, why did you do that? Why didn't you go to the bathroom like a big boy? And I said I did. And she was like, no, like in the toilet. And I said, Chucky's in the hallway. And she said, I don't even know how you know what Chucky is, but Chucky's not in the hallway. And I said, no, Chucky's in the hallway. So when they investigated, they found the sticker, and all my sisters lost all of their doors except for the bathroom one, which is, you know, gotta have that one.
Understandable.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You were outside pooping like Dora the Explorer.
I don't know
Go
why I
and
was like
dig your
Dora,
poo hole, your poo hole, poo
but- No,
hole.
the hole was already dug.
You shat in a poo hole, you're shitting in the woods.
All I'm saying is, if you haven't pooped in nature, it is
It is
it's an
invigorating.
experience. It really makes you feel like one with nature.
I thought I was gonna have to do that the other day at work on a delivery.
I
was ready to blast the pants cannon next to this guy's driveway.
Oh no.
I'm not saying this has or hasn't happened, or it may or may not have been me, but there was one time I'm a fairly regular man. I have my AM BMs once I woke up, and like that's just how I am. Well, went to drop the wife off at work, and I was like, "Hey, I'm going to play some disc golf. I need to get some food before going to disc golf."
I love the story.
So I stopped at the Circle K and got 2 Tornadoes. They're basically taquitos, and I ate them
From a gas station.
from a gas station.
That-
For not even one of the good gas stations
No.
to get roller food.
No. So, well, it wasn't even on the roller. It was a prepackaged, like
Oh,
the
God.
in the hot bar, like thrown into the warmer. And I'm
Uh-huh.
playing disc golf, right? And hole 1, I'm like, I'm feeling great. Hole 2, I'm feeling okay. Hole 3, alarm bells are starting to go off. By hole 4, I was like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. And this is like 8 a.m. There's not places open. So at this particular golf course, once you get to the back of hole 4,
Now, you also have to realize that this particular course is at a church.
it is at a church.
And this
And
I
is
don't know if
there's
you
a-
said
there-
that little
there's
detail
This
or
is-
not.
and this is private property that you
Okay.
had to cross the line into
So
in your
not-
emergency
not
situation.
Just any
yeah,
house, like one of the upper class,
If-
uber rich houses.
Like honestly, if you were for some kind of group that was against the somebody with more money than you, and you would act out in a malicious way, I could see the wrongdoing in what you did.
So-
you committed a hate crime.
You honestly did.
if you know, it's pretty quick to find out where this was if you're from around here.
I mean,
So
I
get
could line up the timeline actually
get to the
because
back-
you stopped consuming THC products so you can pee clean and get a better job, so you can be a good boy, and then you take your frustration out on the people with more money. I get it.
So I got to the back of hole 4, and at the back of hole 4, it's at the back of this property, and these very I won't comment on how they are. Rich people have it goes from a fence to just a cable that says, "Hey, don't cross this cable because it's private property. We'll call the cops." And I'm like, you know what? It's 8 a.m. and I'd rather not shit myself than just have to worry about explaining to the cops why I didn't shit myself. So I hopped over the cable. I went to the back of the property.
Why would the cop have asked you why you didn't?
I don't know. Listen, whenever you're gophering, you don't make rational decisions. Whenever it's that you're starting to turtle head, this needs to happen now.
I mean, you're
So-
not wrong.
I get to the back where there's it stops being grass and it starts being field, with trees. I drop trowel, take care of nature's business. Luckily, as a man with IBS, I keep toilet paper in my disc golf bag. I clean up, and I'm like, I need to get out of here. I play one more hole of disc golf. I'm like, you know what? I'm ready to go home now. And I left. I didn't complete that game.
What you should have done as a grown, responsible person, poop in your hand and put it in your pocket to dispose of later.
Oh no!
I can't tell you how many
Tony.
other things I'd rather do than that.
Oh,
I do not
no.
care. I will drop trowel and take a hot, stinking, fecal, watery dump in every rich people's neighborhood rather than doing that.
I mean, honestly, there's a really close friend of mine that also had a disc golf accident, and I was there when I had to witness him go into the woods and hover over the back of a log in this really nice, well-kept disc golf course next to some rental cabins and the main home store for Clayton Home Stores headquarters, all this nice stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, I hope there are some trail cams back here, and somewhere in the ether exists a video of this man huddled in pain and fright, terror, shock, cold sweat,
all I gotta
just knowing that he couldn't have made it anywhere to do anything different than what he was stuck with. And then what did he have to use? An old towel he found on the ground.
Oh no!
So, last poop story. I worked for a company that did spray foam insulation. And the point of the building process in which we got to most job sites, there was never a porta-john. If there was one out there, it was going to be a great day. So in the wintertime, you had to keep the truck heated to make the chemical work properly, blah, blah, blah. So we kept a Lowe's bucket in the back of the box truck. And you would always have to roll the door down to hold in the heat. And so in wintertime, you didn't know if the truck was occupied or not. So on more than one occasion, I go out to get a tool from the truck or possibly use the bucket myself. And I roll up the door, and there's my boss sitting on the 5-gallon bucket doing his business. And it's a jump scare. It's a horror movie. And the truck already stank, and then it stinks with the smell of feces.
Oh man, I'm sick to feel
It
So-
was a bad time.
Yeah, I think that would be how I died in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Is I had to go to the bathroom and I went out into the woods by myself because I don't like pooping with friends unless I have to. So then he comes up behind
Yeah.
me and
and,
kills me.
and I couldn't imagine the horror story that the person that. Okay, one more poop story. I was because honestly, poop stuff is my horror in real life. I've had to deal with it several times in ways that just are traumatic for me. But here's one that I caused at a young age from being stupid and young and immature. I was 12 years old, and I was at a neighboring county's get together. That's like this big party they have every year. It's like a homecoming festival, and they have porta potties that are outside. And I had a buddy who lived in that county who he moved to Sparta where I live, but he's actually from that county, and he moved to Sparta during a divorce. His dad lived up in the other county, so he's like, "Well, we'll go up here, hang out with my dad." And so my mom drove me up there, dropped me off with the parents, and then we went to this town festival, and he's like, "Hey, I bet you won't knock over that porta potty over there." He's like, "You're probably not even strong enough to."
Oh no.
Probably not even strong enough to. That's not trying bad. That's not bad, is it? That's not a thing to say to somebody to try to goat them into doing something, is it?
No.
Is it?
No.
Is it? That's not
Never.
clearly something that as an adult I'd be like, "You're
No.
just trying to make me do something, and I'm not going to do it."
But
I
as a
had to
kid-
prove how strong I was, and I ran full force. like a cannonball. Like honestly, I was
Like a
built like
tackling.
I was like 11 or 12 years old. Probably I think I was 12, and I was built like a cannonball.
I just
I
feel
was-
sorry for the Korean War
I was-
veteran that was in the
I was
body.
I was 5'7", every bit of almost 200, because I had a weird growth spurt sideways instead of upways. I caught up to the upways later in life, but this is where I was then. But I hit the side of that porta potty, and from the inside of the porta potty, I heard, "Oh my God, no! Oh God! No! I'm like, "I'm gonna call the police! I'm gonna call the police!" And I'm like, there was somebody in there, and he's just going,
But was you strong enough to turn it over?
not just the porta potty that was occupado. I rolled it. I rolled the son of a bitch. Oh, it was awful. I feel,
man.
I think back on it, and I would be so mad at the child that did that.
I would kick a
would
kid. I would
destroy-
kick a kid.
Destroy that
Like,
child.
but nobody saw me. Nobody saw me. Nobody knew I was there. I was gone like a ghost in the night. I went off into this. There was like a street that was going like, and they had like people cooking all this down the street, and you paid cash money for burgers. People were cooking outside, and it was just like, okay, cool, because it's like, not now, where everybody still was friends because you lived close to each other, and that's how the neighborhoods work.
So, I thought you were gonna say something. I was like,
That
"No,
gave me a
go on."
really good spot to cut.
Yeah.
But so one thing I was thinking of, because like again, I'm not into horror a lot, but sometimes I'll think like, what if we reimagined some horror? What if my reimagining is Star Wars horror? What if it's like zombie
I thought
apocalypse,
you meant like the other way around.
but Star Wars? No,
Like the knife turns into a banana and now it's just a comedy.
Yeah.
no. I was thinking of putting things into other things to make them a different thing.
Debbie does Jason Voorhees.
So that's Jason X. That's we're awful people. Jeez,
really?
why the derailment of such? What were you even talking about before we happened
I
to
was talking about why I would really like to have Star Wars horror.
give me the Star Wars horror? Because Tiny was the reason for the mental deflection. Him and his damn Jason
You're welcome.
Uh,
The machete turns into a big rubber Charlie.
he'd still find a way.
Oh,
He's
God.
he's the master of penetration.
Oh, God.
All right. So, hey, Otto, what?
So
Star Wars horror
I
movie.
think
Yeah.
they were really cool to see because, like, Star Wars, I'm really tired of seeing mother Frenching Jedi's and the same stuff. I want to see like a horror, like a slasher, like a slasher movie in Star Wars, like or like a zombie movie. Because there's a book I read called Death Troopers where it was about zombie stormtroopers. And I think that would be pretty fun to see on screen with some good like practical effects. Like get the guys that did The Walking Dead.
Did you watch Ahsoka?
No,
I can't have people in this podcast make recommendations that have already happened.
I don't have Disney Plus, Because I'm poor.
I understand. I was just telling you, that's happened already. In Ahsoka, they actually had a point to where the Night Sisters were using their dark magic to be able to bring the stormtroopers back to life, and they were death troopers.
Right. Well, we've seen it a little bit, but the one I was thinking of, because in the book, what happens is there's this Imperial prison ship that it's floating out in space as prison ships do, and it runs across the Star Destroyer. They're not getting any response from the Star Destroyer, so they're like, hey, well, let's go check it out. They send a team on there of stormtroopers and some like science dudes. Come back, and all of a sudden people start getting sick. Then people start dying. And then people start undying and turning into zombies.
So it was basically just your standard like zombie virus horror movie, but in Star Wars space.
Right, but the thing with these zombies is they're actually like intelligent. Like they can learn things. They go from like shambling mounds to like I can shoot a laser blaster now to I can fly a starship to I'm going to get off of this ship and go fly other places. And it's really good. It's actually whenever I was reading it in high school, it had me genuinely so locked in that one time like my mom came back to the room and my dog barked and I jumped about 14 feet into the air.
That's I've never been much for reading the horror stuff. The only stuff that got me into that I read in the horror stuff genre would be like the demonology books that I used to read back whenever I was going ghost hunting. But those within themselves, are just, they're creepy spookies. They're very creepy spookies because they're descriptors and pictures and things that supposedly happen in real life and classifications. Then all of a sudden it's the middle of the night by the time you get through reading. Everything's dark, everything's quiet, and every little crick and crack of a house or wherever you're living, it just sounds like all of a sudden your brain's like trying to classify it as what specter has cometh to visit me in my apartment.
Starting to see shadow people out the sides of your eyes.
Well, see, coming up, like in my teenage years, I read a lot of Stephen King. Stephen King is typically horror or suspense type books.
Oh.
That was some body horror.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, just
Stephen King.
Stephen King. Yeah, he does different types. So he can do the very realistic, like, loosely, very realistic, like Misery or like Gerald's Game. And then he also does like, evil clown that, is really just the embodiment of evil that feeds on fear. So it's not just a one-trick pony. So I was exposed to a lot of various horror growing up. Gerald's Game's crazy because
Explain Gerald's Game.
Okay, so it starts off as this husband and wife are taking a trip to the cabin, okay? And the husband likes bondage sex.
Nice.
So he gets her all tied up to the bed. Like, she's not really into it, but she does it because she loves her husband or whatever. And, well, he ends up having a heart attack and dying. And they're out at the cabin in the middle of nowhere. She's fully cuffed to this bed, and she can hear the screen door slapping where the door didn't get shut good. And she has to figure out how to get out of the bed because, like, he's not completely dead, but he's dying. And so she has to make the decision. Well, she's also going through this thing in her head about a wolf coming in and killing her and eating her. So basically, she ends up having to chew her own arms or her own hands off to get free to save her life, but not her husband's. And then she ends up on trial, trying to prove that she didn't murder her husband.
And was there like an actual serial killer that was in it that ended up being like in the area and was
Yes.
actually planning on killing somebody in that?
Yeah.
And for some reason he did not kill her. And he was on trial too, and I think he saw her or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Because I realized like once you started talking about like holy shit, like I've seen that there's a movie on
Yeah,
it too.
it came out not too long ago.
Yeah, well I think it was
a
like
few years ago.
I think it might have been like 2010.
No,
What's-
I think it was later than that.
You sure?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know the exact year that the movie came out. The book was out a long time ago.
Yeah, because I can remember seeing the movie quite a long time ago. But then again, I don't know. Movie age is almost like computer age.
Well, see, one of my favorite of his type, he does like, it's like just shy of being like Eldritch horror because it's just there's an inevitable conclusion that's real bad, but there's also no escape. Under his pen name of Richard Bachman, he wrote one called The Long Walk. And basically, all these people, they go through this application process, and when they get selected, they have a starting point. All they have to do is walk a certain speed, and the last one to be able to continue walking basically gets whatever you want. It could be this large amount of money, this fancy car, this blah, blah, blah. And so when they all get in there, they don't really understand exactly what happens to disqualify you. So they're, marching along behind the military vehicle, and they can, ask for water or food or whatever. And a lot of them have a bag with some stuff on there. Well, a couple of them kind of become friends and they help each other. But somebody ends up like falling or spraining their ankle or something to the point where that they can't maintain the 4 mile an hour, minimum speed requirement. And they get 3 warnings, and at the third warning, they punch your ticket, which means you're out, right?
Yeah.
And then so the first person that's ticket got punched, they got shot in the face.
Oh boy.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So then they realize punching your ticket means they're going to execute me.
Punch your ticket.
Yes.
Yeah, they're deleting
So-
your save.
Exactly. They're deleting your save, and you're stuck in this walking down this road until you die. And you and a buddy are kind of banded together. Like, he stops, he's on his second warning, so I'm going to like pick him up and let him lean against my shoulder, and I'm going to help him limp along. But then you realize there can only be one winner anyway. So how are we going to get out of this? Well, only one of us can.
Highlander rules.
Yep.
Take out the leg.
Yeah, it's kind of a
Sweep the leg, Johnny.
that's horrible.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things like it's the I don't have to outrun the bear, I just have to outrun you.
Yeah.
And it's
But the bears, you become almost like best friends because you've gone through this horribly traumatic thing.
Yep. It would absolutely suck, but it feels like, am I going to make it to the end, or is this person who is about to be at his end need my help to make it to the end that won't end until one of us is ended? If I knew that was the case and I had to fight for my own life, I'd have to take somebody out at the knee.
Well, I mean, I could tell you the ending, but that'd be spoilies.
Did they take him out at the knee?
No,
Was it an arrow to the ankle?
no.
Well, okay. So you're really not going to spoil it at all?
I mean, I can. I mean, the book came out in '76.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's going to get mad at you.
Yeah.
Well, one of them he had like sprained his ankle or something. So he was it wasn't the main character, it was the other character. And like he's a real solid dude, and they're helping each other. Well, he just decides that he's done, and so he just sits down and lets the warnings happen, and he keeps telling the other guy to go, and like he's almost kind of meditative when his save is deleted.
Oh.
So it's
Nice.
sad.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah. That is kind of my favorite, like, horror where it's like,
Walking down the road.
well, like, it's more of the aspect of, like, you get thinking about, like, what would I do in that situation? How would I handle that? And, like, oh, God, like, I don't know. I don't even, it'd be, like, horror adjacent for me. Like, kind of the same vein of, like, kind of gets your heart rate thinking and, like,
Well,
that
that-
thrillery aspect.
Yeah, I was about to say seems more of like a thriller type situation.
Yeah, horror and thriller for me kind of, like, overlap. Because, like, again, I'm not
But
a
they're
fan.
like kissing cousins.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of like gory horror. So like Saw, Final Destination never really like scratched that.
Oh,
itch.
come on
Final
now.
Destination, though, boy, that one wasn't really gory. It was just
Just too real sometimes.
death is
like,
coming.
it's not
I
real.
cannot
Have you
pass
ever-
a logging truck
No.
without thinking about that
That's
movie?
not how physics works.
Oh,
It
that's
is-
well,
cool.
no. I also had an uncle get crushed by a logging truck while he was pumping gas.
I had an uncle that was crushed by a logging truck while he was driving a logging truck, and the load come undone,
Yep.
went forward and crashed through the forward spot of the logging truck.
that is happening. But the way they do it in Final Destination,
It doesn't
the
matter.
inertia doesn't work like that.
It's not going to come launching backwards at you. It's going
And
to.
also, it bounces higher than it falls off of the truck.
Yeah, but when you're passing the truck, and you've heard all your life about your great Pappy Winston or whatever, I can't remember his exact relation to me. pumping
James Earl.
gas, and the logs rolling off and crushing them to death, and that's why You should never blaze past logging trucks. And then you see that movie where people are almost taken out via logging truck, and it's just like, man, logging trucks are scary.
Yeah, just
They're like the road style kaiju.
Yeah.
But the Final Destination movies, they kind of got a little bit more kooky and more like the people's bodies are driven towards killing themselves and death and
Yeah.
injury and all this stuff, as opposed to like
They become
just
kind of slapsticky.
yeah, because like in one of them, they have it to where like this person's like, they're next to die. They're trying to keep them sequestered and kept away, so nothing can harm them. They can't, be killed by some miscellaneous force. Then all of a sudden they are like compelled to go stick their hand in the like the garbage disposal. Like
I think I remember seeing that
Yeah,
one.
It's like at a certain point they just jump the shark. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, back in the day of Tiny's hardcore Facebook use, I was in a lot of different meme groups, and you can get to have friends and conversations. Well, there was a horror film going around known as the Serbian film, and it was supposed to be the absolute scariest thing. Like, people cried themselves to sleep, and then they couldn't sleep because it was so scary. Well, Tiny watched it, and I thought it was the most stupid, ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Wasn't it just like disgusting, gross out gore horror? Ended up being like
A
the
lot
scary
of it.
part of it.
A lot of it because it's, this dude, he used to do stag films back in the day, and, they're out of money, so he's going to do one last hurrah to take care of his family. He gets there, he gets like some kind of like super fuck cocaine to where he's like blazed out of his mind, but he can't not have sex with anything and everything, and then they all start killing each other, and it's just so dumb.
and
It just way went past where it ever could have into the realm of that's utterly ridiculous.
That sounds like some like human centipede or tusk or teeth
Look,
kind of.
now Tusk was a different story,
Right.
Because in some ways my brain goes, somebody could do that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, to me, that's what's horrifying, is something that is feasibly possible. Like somebody trying to turn my big ass into a walrus. It wouldn't be that hard. I'm already the size of one.
You're
Uh,
a baby. He's a full-grown baby walrus.
Have you seen a horror movie called Rubber?
Yes. I
That
wouldn't call that a horror movie, though.
I don't even know what kind of movie that would be.
Did you watch the entirety of it?
Yes.
Because I did.
Yes, I watched the entire. This is back in high school. I haven't watched it recently. It was one of those I watched it once to say I watched it.
Yeah, and I appreciated the opening scene after viewing the movie,
Mhm.
because that whole opening monologue, he tells you that everything you're going to see in this movie is going to be for no reason at all.
Yep.
Well, I mean, they also have movies that are out there that are made of the horror movie genre, but are more or less made in ways to be just absolutely god awful on purpose, like your Birdemic. I don't know
Sharknado.
Sharknado.
Now Sharknado
Oh,
at least
boy.
had budget put behind it. Did you boys?
Not
did,
the very first one.
It had like $5.
did you ever see Birdemic?
No, I've
Mm,
seen bits and pieces
I don't
of
think
it.
so.
Birdemic. I watched the movie. I've seen it, and I've never seen anything so awful as somebody being scared and afraid of what looks to be duck hunt graphics, birds coming out of the sky and trying to attack you. Like, honestly, it seems like something that would be harder to do and achieve on purpose than like, and it's terrible acting. It's from just like cheap camera point of view from a single angle within a room, and they're just sitting and talking and going back and forth, and then there's a single angle from them walking down the street, and then there's a single like, it's just all from different spots. It's just very, very, very bad. Troll 2.
Yeah.
Troll 2 with the Neil Bog.
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
or like Bird Box.
Oh,
or
you
Bird
hated
Box Barcelona.
You hated
Because they
Bird
made a
Box.
second one.
Why
Yeah.
did they need to?
I don't know.
Bird Box was only successful the first time because they used a meme explosion.
Mhm.
Yeah,
What-
pretty much.
There's another, because sometimes lower budget horror movies can be really good. There's one I watched.
Bird Box wasn't
Well, I was talking not
good
that
or
one.
low budget,
I was
really.
talking about the other ones. not Bird Box.
I
Bird
just wanted
Box
to
is-
further rag on it.
it's
That's
kind of
all
a-
it was.
Yeah, it's basically the silent. What was that one? Silent Place or a Quiet,
Place.
It's basically that, but a different sense.
No,
but-
A Quiet Place is kind of terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so good. I
Oh,
went and
it
saw
is.
that in theaters, and it is terrifying to watch in theaters.
Have you
Oh,
seen both parts?
I haven't watched the second part.
I haven't
yet.
watched the second part either. The first part, though, that I did watch, seeing how the deaf girl has no comprehension of how sounds work,
Mhm.
and has no comprehension of how she's making sounds or anything like that happening in a world that if you make sound and you're too loud, something will come and kill you. Like it almost seems like it's like our worst fears that our parents would lie to us about. You know, like
Yeah.
like no, you gotta be no. We're gonna play Quiet Mouse right now. We're playing Quiet Mouse right now because if you don't play Quiet Mouse right now and you lose Quiet Mouse, you don't get to eat dinner. Like
Yeah. Or like you turn on the dome light in the car at night,
that's illegal.
and then
They're
the
gonna.
cop comes and arrests you, and then like decapitates you.
Oh yeah,
I like
that-
to be decapitated.
oh, Urban Legend.
Right.
Like that movie where like all of the old stories would come to life, like the urban legend of like the hook killer with the teens on their first
Oh,
date,
yeah.
and all those other things, like just but the dad lies that would come true. You know, don't turn the dome light on, otherwise the cops, you know, it's illegal. You'll get pulled over. They'll take me to jail. That kind of stuff like that come to life. Oh, that'd be a good one.
Right.
What's some other tropes like that? Like not tropes, but like lies that your parents would tell you about certain things like that.
Santa Claus was real.
Oh, shh.
No, I was just wanting to cover that Santa Claus was real.
He's watching you. He's everywhere.
Where?
everywhere.
He's everywhere. He's everywhere. That was an old Ray Stevens song.
Oh yeah.
Claus is watching you.
My parents had that on cassette. We used to listen to it every Christmas. It was great. The whole album.
I know I
But-
was told if I didn't rewind the VHS tapes, I'd go to jail.
I
Does
don't.
that count?
Yeah, that's funny.
I don't remember a lot of them. My parents were real big on not like lying to me about that kind of stuff.
And are you talking about rewinding the VHS tapes at your house or rewinding
Both.
the VHS? Okay, because there was like a "Be Kind, Please Rewind" on all of the tapes that you used to rent back when you used to rent videotapes and watch movies and then take them back to the rental place in which you got them from.
True.
Uh,
Otherwise, they would charge you more.
Yes, they would charge you more
Well,
because
see,
I mean
we
you got an
didn't even
account.
have a VHS tape rewinder, except the VCR where you hit rewind, and
Mhm.
it took like an hour.
Yeah,
Oh,
it like
At
God.
least that's what it felt like.
Yep.
it replayed the movie backwards in like 1.5 speed. Like it wasn't even like double speed or anything else like that. Like I had a turbocharger that would just get it done in like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Just weep. And but the ones on the VCR, you could sit there and it'd be like just rocking back and forth, waiting for it to rewind all
Oh,
the
yeah.
way.
Yeah, mine was like
I couldn't say my R's. I would just sit there. We wind it. We wind it, Mom. We wind it. We wind it.
yeah, because I had the ones that were built into it, but it was a little bit later. So like it would be like a solid like 5 minutes. So I remember hitting stop, rewind, and then going and doing something else because it was just. I have time. I remember sitting there listening, and as soon as I hear the click, I was like, "Okay, my movie's ready."
Back to it.
Good
Back
old
to
days.
watch the same movie again.
Mhm.
Yep.
Going down to my parents used to take me to the pawn shop, and we'd pick out VHS tapes. I had a bunch of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers ones, a bunch of Pokemon ones.
You know
Love
the-
those things.
See, my stepdad, he would get them from the pilot. I don't. Do you remember when they had like VHS tapes
Yeah.
and stuff at the pilot gas
Yeah,
station?
now they have
he
some
would
DVDs.
he would get the cheap ones, like
Oh Lord.
like not even the $5 ones. He would get the dollar ones and less.
Yeah.
So we had some really weird stuff. Some things were wildly inappropriate,
Oh Lord.
but we didn't know until it was watched.
I remember when Hollywood Video here went out of business, and me and my
dude,
parents
I
went
miss
up and
Hollywood
bought
Video.
a bunch of them because like they were selling like VHS tapes for I don't remember because I didn't have a concept of money back then, but I remember like going up there and getting like a stack of VHS, and it was like the best day of my life because I was like, I get all these new movies.
Oh yeah, dude, and like when Blockbuster went out, I did the same thing with the DVDs.
Mhm.
I used to go and like rifle their bins after they would drop down to 1 or 2 copies
Yeah.
of any particular movie after the newness wore off. And then when they went out of business, just walking out with stacks of stuff. That's also how I learned that just because she's attractive does not mean she knows what movie is a good movie. Because I bought Napoleon Dynamite on VHS at a point where VHS probably shouldn't have been a purchasable thing
I
anymore.
didn't know that movie came out when VHS
It
was
did.
still a thing.
I think I still have it at the house. And then I watched it, and I was very mad because I hated everything about the movie. And then I realized it's more fun to watch it and then rag on it with your friends. There's a whole appeal to
Gosh.
it. But actually just sitting there and watching it,
We used
not
to
funny.
they used to have commercials that would come out that to display like what movies were about to come out on video, and they would have to put the addition to it, and they would say, now available to own on video cassette and DVD.
Oh, I remember
Yep.
that. My Spider-Man, the animated series VHS had that, and a bunch of my other ones, and and then it'd be that, and then the THX logo that would blow out your speakers. Wow.
Speaking of discount bin movies, I once got a couple movies that were both the first and then the sequel in a discount bin, and they were from the 1980s. And they used to scare me as a kid, but then I got older and I got even more scared because of different reasons. They were called Cocoon. I don't know if you've ever seen
I've
them.
never seen those, but I've heard of them.
Oh my
That
God,
name
they're
Ain't
sounds
they
so
supposed to be
good.
like alien pod people?
Yes, they're like all it is. It's just aliens, okay? But it's cool the way they depict them, and they live in these pods to where their bodies can remain in stasis, and like the pods look like they're made of like natural stones and stuff that are from the earth, but it's all of these natural minerals that keep them like young and youthful inside of the cocoon, so they don't age until they're ready to actually come out of those cocoons. That's why it's called Cocoon. Because that's what all of those pods are. Well, basically, like these old people at a retirement home sneak onto this property to where they've got like this big mansion with a pool house, and these people that live in a retirement home start sneaking onto the property and start going swimming in the pool that have these weird-looking rocks at the bottom of them. Well, they start stealing the vitality of the aliens that are inside of that pod by swimming in the water with them, because they're a more vibrant living being, since they're humans and they're out and they're active than the pods that are keeping the aliens alive. So they're not that active in there. They're more or less in stasis. So the more active things that are requiring more energy are getting that energy. And these old people in the retirement home are like going from their 80s shrinking back into like their 40s.
It's crazy.
And it's insane. Like, and it's not really a horror, but it's like just like a body scare kind of thing. Like, one of them goes back in time so much, like that she's like this 80-something-year-old woman, and she goes back in time so much in the way that she like de-ages that she gets a period. Like, it's insane. The movie is really good though, and then the sequel happened, and the sequel happened, but the first one was really good.
Right.
The Twilight Zone movie, man. That was,
Even just
that
the
was
show.
so good. Yeah, even the show was
The-
good.
That is my favorite kind of horror, because that is the psychological, like, what if horror.
The Dan
Yeah.
the Dan Aykroyd scene of the Twilight Zone movie, whenever they're in the car, and he was talking about some kind of killer, and then I heard their face might have looked something like this. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was that creeped me out. The little boy whose imagination controlled reality.
Oh, yeah.
That screwed me up, especially like the killer bunny rabbit scene. Like,
Wasn't that in? That was an episode, wasn't
No.
I think that.
that was Twilight Zone the movie?
Well, there was a
Oh.
couple of Twilight Zone movies
I think I remember seeing something like that. I thought it was in one of the episodes.
because the one with the little boy, wasn't it in black and white?
No.
Thought it
Yeah,
was.
No, it was that's the thing. Like, it was presented in black and white because the little boy was controlling that universe
Right.
with his mind. And then once things started becoming in Technicolor, the more vibrant they became, the crazier they became, because it was the little boy's imagination. So it was just the Twilight Zone could be like a complete trip to some people, but
Oh, yeah, absolutely. About a game of kick the can.
yeah.
But anyway, just remember, if you learn nothing else from the day, that people do enjoy horror movies and get a sense of elation from it, and it is referred to as frisson.
Shazam, if I were to come up to you with you in a quiet cabin in the woods at night and handed you some grapes, what would you do with them?
Number one, how did you walk to me with both a cabin and grapes?
I have large hands.
That's understandable. Thank you for both presents. I'm going to take the grapes into the cabin, and I'm going to slice them up with the knives hanging from the ceiling.
Well, okay then.